What if I told you that the secret to achieving your goals, whether it's eating better, strengthening your body, or finding some peace when mom life gets a little crazy, might just lie in how you prepare the ingredients of your life? I'm not just talking about preparing meals, but something a little bit more deep. Stay with me for a minute as we break down how the small, consistent preparations you make today can set you up for success tomorrow, both in the kitchen and beyond.
Hey there, I'm Ashley, mom of 4 and creator of Reps and Redemption. Join me as I share my passion for health education, explore all things fitness and nutrition, plus share a little faith-filled homemaking along the way. If you're a mom ready to build strength and live a life of epic redemption, this podcast is for you. Let's get after it.
I am so glad you are here listening to the show. I'm recording this kind of late and pretty tired. I'm not gonna lie. I just had a pretty intense, I guess you could say, jujitsu class this evening. I normally record these in the morning, late morning or afternoon, but I just didn't prep properly, which is kind of leads me to this thing that I've been thinking about a lot about preparation, a lot about planning, but whether it's in the kitchen or in our life, it affects everything we do, right? So I want to introduce 2 sides of this episode that I'm going to be talking about briefly, and I'm going to be talking with you about preparing ingredients for nutrition, and then a little bit broader concept just to kind of add on to this whole idea of preparing ingredients about prepping our lives for success in our faith, building strength, and in motherhood. So the first part of this episode, I want to talk about prepping ingredients for nutritional success. Now, if you've been listening to this show for quite some time and you enjoy all things health and fitness like I do, you kind of know how to cook a little bit now. And you've had some ideas along the way. Maybe you've started Pinterest boards and you see these meals that you'd love to make, but sometimes you just don't have that capacity in your day to really go from scratch from step 1 to 10 to make this elaborate meal, at least not every night. I know I don't, and I really enjoy making new recipes. So I want to talk about the power of ingredients. And in this section, I'm just going to share with you how I've kind of realized that I actually don't prepare I don't fully meal prep, if that makes sense. I've talked about it before. My husband does it, definitely. But I've realized that I actually ingredient prep. And what that is I don't put entire meals together. And I've noticed that this has really helped set me up for flexibility because sometimes I don't need all the protein that's in an already prepped dish. And it makes it a little bit easier for me to roast sweet potatoes, keep those separate, cook chicken breast, maybe some ground beef. We cook it a couple pounds at a time, slice up some bell peppers, and I do a batch of jasmine rice for the week. And I can actually mix and match these different ingredients so I'm not so locked in to one dish and I don't get sick of eating the same thing. And I tend to kind of get bored. So if I'm having the same lunch in a row, by the 3rd lunch, I cannot have the same thing. I will gratefully if I need to, but I would much rather do something different. So the benefit of this is that it's not only going to save you time in the kitchen because you won't have to piece everything together in another dish. You'll just have your food separate and then you can just pull from those prepped ingredients. So for example, here's some practical tips. You're going to roast or cook, stir fry, however you want to do it. Roast multiple proteins like chicken, turkey, fish, and you can use them in multiple different ways throughout the week. Pre-chop all your veggies. I like to slice up bell peppers, onions. I like to have spinach and arugula. I kind of tend to take them out of the bag that they come in and put them in a different container with a paper towel because it absorbs the moisture and keeps them a little bit fresh longer. I like to cook up sweet potatoes. I use my Instapot for that, but lately I've used the last 2 times I've cooked sweet potatoes, I've roasted them in the oven. Absolutely delicious. I don't really do brown rice. I just don't like the taste of it, and I lean more towards jasmine rice. I do that in the Instant Pot with broth and with chicken broth or turkey broth, beef broth, whatever I have, and I will do like 3 cups of jasmine rice and usually 4 to 5 cups of the broth. I will pressure cook it on high for 10 minutes and then stir it when when the pressure releases. And I've noticed this is the best way to cook jasmine rice. I'm not joking. It stays fresh like all week. So if you think rice doesn't stay fresh, if you cook it this way in the broth, it definitely will. And then after I do that, I tend to prep snacks. Like I do hard-boiled eggs. I put together like little fruit bowls or fruit salad. I do like hummus. I don't always buy it because if I'm the only one that's going to eat it, I don't really like it to sit in the fridge that long. So I like to have a couple of quick options on hand. And when you have strategies like this, they're so helpful on super busy days. Like I just come home from the gym or right before I'm about to take the kids up for bath. If they haven't eaten dinner yet, we've kind of gone back and forth with when they eat. So sometimes it's before their bath, sometimes it's after. It just kind of depends on the day. If any of us are training jujitsu that night, it really just depends. But I already know, I already have ground beef cooked. I could do tacos, or I already have chicken breast cooked. I can heat it up in a pan with maybe some coconut aminos. They really like it like that. So this approach mirrors how life honestly works. And when you have basic things ready to go, you can just adjust it to whatever comes your way. And that's it. So prepping, my second part of the podcast is about prepping the ingredients of life. So this is a little bit similar, but obviously different because I want to transition into just the broader concept of, quote, ingredients. And the pillars of this show in particular are faith, strength, health, nutrition, motherhood. And when we talk about our faith, just like we prepare in the kitchen with key ingredients, preparing our faith is essential for navigating life. So I suggest, we talked about this in the last episode, preparing our faith daily through practices like prayer and reading our Bibles, getting into God's word. And you wouldn't enter the kitchen without some staple ingredients, and you shouldn't enter, and we, especially as moms, shouldn't enter our day without grounding ourselves in the Lord. And I know it's hard. Sometimes it can be really chaotic, but I know that even in the moments where it kind of doesn't happen the way you wanted it to happen, there's always the Lord's grace, and you can do it anytime throughout the day. So don't be discouraged about that. I love having just these small rituals, even brief ones in the morning, and it anchors me to just keep moving. So for example, my 2 babies wake up the earliest, and sometimes I'm up before them, but I'm not I'm not going to pretend that I get up all the time before them, because it can be anywhere after 6 a.m. And I think I'm at this stage in my life, I'll talk a lot about it more in episodes to come, where sleep is just so monumental right now for my rest and recovery, especially the way that I train in the gym and the way that I push my body. I must sleep. So sometimes it's only a few minutes before they get up, and recently it's been around 7:30, and honestly, I'll take it. I'm not upset about that, but I go downstairs with them. I make them their morning milk. They like to have a milk, and my little Annie has almond milk. My little George has goat milk. Yes, they have their preferences, and that's fine for now. And I'll have like a little fruit tray or maybe a sourdough bagel, like cut in half, for them to munch on, walk around and they play. And I sit in a chair and I read a chapter in my Bible. It can be part of my BSF study. It does not have to be, but I sit, I read, they climb in my lap, on and off. It's really okay. It's very slow. It sets the day. It anchors my morning and starts my day. And I actually really love it. And sometimes I end up reading for about 20 minutes, sometimes 30, sometimes 12. It really depends, but that's all right. And I just wanted to share that if it's not as long as you want it to be, I know that the season can be very exhausting, and I commend you for really wanting to make it part of your daily life. And then we have building strength, physical and mental preparation. So physical strength comes from consistency, not perfection. So, building a solid foundation with your workouts, eating well, and like I was just talking about, prioritizing rest can lead to long-term success. Now, rest isn't always sleep, but prioritizing those down days, those days that you might not push as hard as normal. And I think just getting into a rhythm of what's consistent for you. What is consistent for me might not work for you, and vice versa, and that's okay. And consistent workouts for you might be 3 workouts per week. Consistent, grocery shopping for you might work Mondays, better on Mondays than it does. Like for me, it's on Friday. So it just depends on what is a consistent thing to help you build your physical strength foundation. And mental strength is very similar too. It's following daily habits like journaling and practicing gratitude. I'm not like a huge affirmation person, but I do like using God's word as affirmations and seeking the Lord, especially when it comes to like psalms or hymns, and just speaking those into your life. All of these act as ingredients for building just a resistance and a resilience in times that we are, I guess, pressed and pushed, and just having the right ingredients for our life. So for example, when you've already made the mental decision to move your body, you've already decided you're going to go work out, or you're going to go for a walk, or fill in the blank, practice gratitude. Those actions become easier even when you don't have the motivation to do it. So you have to decide, you have to make the decision. And both physical and mental strength, they both work together. And just like meal prepping, we were talking earlier about in the show, prepping your ingredients and getting things set, these things set you up for success in the kitchen. But prepping the physical and mental ingredients for your life, these are foundational habits, and prepping those ingredients do the same thing for life. Make your life, it's ready to go. It might not be smooth sailing, but you got this. You can do this. You have a plan. And when it comes to motherhood, just sometimes it's a lot. Can be a little chaotic depending on what season you're in this amazing blessing of a time. But setting up systems like prepping your ingredients as a mom can help you bring some order. So for example, like preparing things in advance, like tonight, I know that, like I mentioned, I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to sit and have coffee and read my Bible. My kids are going to be around, so their bottles for their milk, for their morning milk, they're clean. They're ready to go. I know where the milk is. My coffee pot is on a timer. We got a new coffee pot, so I don't even have to scoop the coffee. Anything I can get done the night before that makes the morning go really extra smooth, I do it, even if I don't feel like doing it. So it brings, like I said, some order. Having their breakfast already planned and ready to go. I already know what my kids are eating for lunch tomorrow and dinner. So I might add like a cucumber here, or, of course, my little Annie, I'm not going to lie to you guys, her favorite thing, mac and cheese. Like I might have a little bit there to offer her on her plate with everything else that I have ready to go, and that's fine. But creating even some schedules, having a go-to list of activities for rainy days, that's something I'm going to be working on. And I've been working on it mentally. I just have to get it on paper or in my planner or something like that. But, You might not be able to predict every single thing. And since you're a mom, you know that we can't do that. But if we've prepped up our home and our mindset and we have a better approach, we're going to be better equipped to handle whatever comes. And these little acts of preparation, whether it's getting clothes ready the night before, I've talked a lot about that on the show. I prep my gym bag, I prep my gym clothes. When I don't do that, it takes me a lot longer to get out of the house in the morning. Even if it takes me 20, 30 minutes longer, it just adds more stress and frustration to the day. So anything that I can pre-organize, pre-prep in the evening, that is how I'm going to set up my quote ingredients for the next day. And this helps me honestly alleviate the stress and increases my capacity to manage all the things that I need to manage. So I'm going to wrap this episode up by just reinforcing the idea of having a holistic preparation. So as we prepare nutritional ingredients for success, we can apply the same principle to our faith, strength, and motherhood. So take a moment today to prep one small thing, whether it's a meal, a workout, a quiet moment of reflection. The consistency of these small ingredients can build into something powerful for your week and for your life. And I encourage you to reflect on what you can prep in your own life to set you up for success in all areas. And this might just look like putting your Bible next to your coffee cup. This might just look like putting your workout shoes next to the door. It doesn't have to be something crazy, but taking that step with that one thing you've really wanted to get a hold of in the last few weeks or few months can really start to help you move in that direction. I'd like to give you really quick an invite to click the links in the show notes, and there's a couple of free downloads I've created for you guys. Some with protein. There should be a little workout one in there. I'm really excited to share that with you. I will definitely keep you in the loop about all things YouTube coming up. And I hope that this episode has encouraged you. And I am ready to go get some sleep. So until next time.
If this episode inspired you, will you share with a friend? Remember, this podcast offers health education tips and holistic insights. Please consult healthcare professionals for personalized advice. Until next time, Mama, be bold and live well.